You might be wondering where I'm going with what I'm saying here, but I guess I've got a point to make. North Korea is a country that's often held up as an example of how terrible the world can be. And the things that people go on about living there and this, that, the other, and it's always from an outside perspective. And then you say, oh, but the people who live there don't understand, you know, they're brainwashed to think that it's good. They'll only say it's good out of fear, you know, they're forced to say it's good, they're forced to do this. But there was this one thing I remember people always saying is that they scored a goal in the World Cup football, and that was constantly shown on TV. It was shown over and over and over and over again from all the different angles, and the people were told that they'd won the World Cup. You ask people, how do you know that that's what happened? They go, oh, because that's what they said. Who's they? Oh, well, like, it's what people say, isn't it? Who is this they that say things? When have you been out there to know that that's what they do out there? Who do you know that comes from there to know that that's what they do out there? You don't. And there's this assumption that they can't be happy with their lives, you know. There's no way they can be as content as they pretend to be. You know, they're bombarded with images and told what to think, told what that image means, told how they have to feel, told what they have to do as a result of it. And it's all just propaganda used to control them. They're bombarded with stuff over and over again. The images of people out sweeping the streets and picking up rubbish and keeping the place clean, and there's no way anyone could be content doing that, no way that anyone could be happy doing that. And what a disgusting place to live, what a disgusting way to treat people. How terrible is that people could be treated that way? But then you look at your own country, and like through the 90s into the early 2000s there was this big process of outsourcing, getting certain work done by China, like labour and manufacturing, and getting your data and your calls handled in India. And by doing that you can get it done cheaply. So then you can remove some of your staff, or you could shut down a whole section of your operation. So then you've reduced your expenses and you've increased your profit. And then again the next year you outsource something else, and you decrease your expenditure, you increase your profit. And you're doing that year on year on year, and then you get to a point where there's so many companies in so many countries outsourcing to one specific place that place, their economy is suddenly starting to pick up. They're starting to grow a result of it. They're starting to need higher wages for doing the job they're doing to match the economy that they work in. So then you need to sort of outsource everything somehow. Now you're at a point where all of a sudden you're not going to have any growth, because the things that you can't outsource and still have to do yourself still cost you the same or more to do, and the stuff you're outsourcing is now starting to cost more, because everyone you're paying out in that country now needs more money because their economy's starting to boom. Now all of a sudden you're not going to have a profit. For the first year in however many years you're going to have a loss, and then that's going to be sustained the next year. So then what is the kind of ultimate level of outsourcing? Well, really, if you get the people to do it for free, that would be great. Or even better still, you get them to do it and you get them to pay you for doing it. Now that would be a terrible world to live in, wouldn't it? Where you're doing work for the state and you're paying the state for you to do that work. That ain't how things are meant to be, is it? But then you start looking around, like all this recycling, it's all for the environment. It's also that you make the world a better place, save the planet, this, that, the other. But there's another side to that. There's these companies that take your rubbish And all that rubbish they take goes back to the same processing plant. It's just that when it gets there, it's already pre-sorted. Because you're sorting it for them. So not only are you paying your local taxes, whatever it is, to have these services provided, you're then doing the work. So you're doing the work and paying them. Mad, isn't it? But if, say, it took 5 minutes to sort out the rubbish from one household, now it only takes 1 minute. Well, then they only need 20% of the staff that they had before. So then they can save money. Their profits are up. Their expenditures down. They're outsourcing things to the public. Why do you think everything now is doing it online? You're processing the account details for them. You're processing the address for them. You don't need someone to show you around a showroom. You don't need someone to demonstrate the products. You don't need someone to compare two products. Because you're doing it all for them. And then you're paying them for you to do the work. It's like people who take over public areas. The big thing in Britain at the minute, well, for a few years now, that any sort of patch of open land in the public space or roundabouts as you're driving along, the community takes them over and then, you know, digs it all out, plants stuff, keeps it looking nice, makes it look nice, to do something for the community. Well, how is that any different to people in North Korea sweeping up outside a building? What's the difference? You're sitting there online trying to do something like get a parking permit, as an example, and you're paying them while you're doing the work for them. Where's the difference? But then you look at these places and you see what they haven't got, and that's all that you see, and that's what's promoted to you is what they don't have. And you can't understand then how they could be content living that way because they haven't got all the things that you've got. But there's a certain reality there that the people who live off grid in the Western world are some of the happiest people. They're happy and content because they're not missing out on anything. They've got nothing to consume, so they don't feel left out of this consumerist world. So again, you apply that onto somewhere like North Korea. There's a limited number of products of any particular type, and if you've got one of everything, you're as content as you can be within that system. If you don't know anything beyond that, you know, you can't sit there crying that you can only record 6 channels at a time out of the 800 potential channels you could be watching if you've only got one channel. You can't sit there moaning about the fact that someone's got one of 100 radio stations on when you wanted to listen to one of the other one of 100 radio stations. And the reason why we're so discontent in the West, in our countries, in this civilized world, is pretty much because of consumerism. Whenever we're discontent, it's because for all we have got, there's so much that we haven't got. And that's all people see is what they haven't got. And that's what upsets them. I wanted McDonald's, but you got KFC. Well, there's no point going out for a drive. You know, if I had a Porsche, I'd be out all the time. That sort of stupid stuff. You could have what you need and easily get by with what you need, but you sit there moaning because you haven't got what you want. And it's simply because there's so much to consume, and the more there is to consume, the less able you are to consume, but you feel this urge to consume. So therefore, the main reason you're discontent in this life, in this world, is because of everything you haven't got, because you're so aware of what you could have. But then you're shown these images from somewhere like North Korea and you can't believe they're happy. They can't be happy. No way can they be happy. And it makes you feel better about the little that you have got in this consumerist world. Just in that moment, you know, oh, things ain't too bad, could be living like them out there. Without realising you pretty much are living like them out there. But you just look around at the things you've got, and because you've got things that you've bought, you suddenly think your life's so much better. But then that passes, doesn't it? And then you get back to thinking about everything you haven't got, and then all of a sudden you're no longer content. You have to think it through from their perspective. When there's such a limit on what is available to consume, you are then more able to consume. And if you have what you need, then why wouldn't you be content? If you don't know anything about the world beyond that nation, anything beyond that country, how can you not be content with that country? You don't see things for what they are. You don't realise what's going on. You know, all these companies, organisations and services reached a point where they couldn't outsource anymore. Then they reached a point where outsourcing was starting to cost them more. And then they put everything online, or they get you to do it yourself. You know, you are cleaning the streets and paying the state while you do it. You are sorting rubbish and picking up litter and doing that for the state and paying the state while you do it. You are out there sweeping up, cleaning up and making things look nice for the community out of your own pocket on your own time while paying the state. How happy are you really? Welcome to freedom.